Hopefully we can follow along here. These are just some samples. Again, the fee list is very extensive, so I'm not trying to present every fee in detail tonight, but just to give a sampling of some of the fees, and not only what our current fee is, but our proposed fee, and also some examples. I used Woodland Vacaville fees primarily because they had them available online, so they were easy to find. But again, each city, some fees are based on dollar amounts, some are based on lots, so I just took some representative samples here. A conditional use permit, if the improvements were $150,000. Currently, our fee is $500. The proposed fee is $1,000. But if you look at Vacaville and Woodland, they're both over $3,000, so we're still very competitive with their fees. Under design review for signs, currently we're at $25. We have a proposal if it's a staff-approved sign of $100. If it's a sign that needs to go to the Planning Commission, it would be $300. Again, that's more time involved in putting together an agenda packet and that process. But again, compared to Vacaville and Woodland, we're much lower than their fees.
Excuse me, Janet, if I could interrupt. Could you maybe explain the difference between, or what would constitute a fee for a sign being $100 versus $300? I know you said it would go to the Planning Commission, but I'm sure there are some criteria that have been established or would be established.
Right, and I believe that's outlined in the zoning ordinance. Is that correct, Mr. Dowswell? Yes, so
So it's
again,
covered?
there's current language in place that
Okay.
it says when a project or a sign can be approved by staff versus when it needs to go to the commission.
Okay. My need to have that answered is that there is some, I guess, precedent, or there is some frozen language that shows how that is done, and not just, a flip of the coin kind of thing.
Typically, individual signs have to go, are approved by staff. Sign programs for like centers of, I believe it's more than 5 businesses, have to be approved by the Planning Commission.
I see.
And then once approved by the Planning Commission, then it's administrative approval for the actual sign for that business that comes in.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Janet, please
right.
continue.
Again, just a few more examples. Tentative parcel maps. Parcel maps have 4 lots or less. I used 4 as this example. Currently, we're at $390, proposed to go to $1,200. But again, Vacaville and Woodland are both over $3,000. So even though we're seeing big increases in Dixon, because we haven't increased our fees in so long, we're still very competitive compared to those other cities. Variance, again, this was another area where the committee said maybe we should look at if staff could approve some of these, but currently our fee is $250, proposed for $1,000, and again, between a half to a third of what you see in Woodland and Vacaville. General plan amendments, again, although fees are increasing, still significantly less than our adjacent cities. Parcel map plan check, again, that's an engineering function where we look at the map and do a more technical review. Again, even though the fees are more than doubling, we're more than Vacaville, but less than Woodland. You see a broad range there in fees. And then the improvement plan checks, again, an engineering function. Fees increase, but in both examples, still less than those adjacent cities. So again, admittedly, we are still increasing fees. It's a tough time to increase fees, but again, we did put in more tiers, so hopefully for the smaller projects, it makes it a little less of an impact for them, and we feel like we're still very competitive with our adjacent cities. And again, it's some policy considerations about, are we trying to recover costs for development? That's a decision for the council to make, or is it absorbed by the general fund at large? Just to touch on the other departments, again, we put most of our focus on planning and engineering. In the building department, there's actually 3 fees we're going to reduce. Instead of basing them on cost, we're going to do a flat fee because we found that that's a truer reflection of our cost. Again, we updated the building code last year, so we're just reaffirming that fee, no changes. The one new fee we are proposing is to add a surcharge to building permits for general plan updates. Currently, we don't have an ongoing revenue stream for our general fund. We started the process this last year based on the city's general fund, but with the money tightening up for the long term, again, we don't have a revenue stream. This is one way to help bring some money in over time. It reflects the fact that new construction, has an impact and, is a relevant or appropriate place to help bring in some funds for the general fund. Financed two smaller fees. We're creating a deposit for the DSMWS customers. Again, $25. If you close out your account, you move somewhere, if you have a balance owing, that helps us recover some of the money that might be left on an account. But if someone's paid up in full, they get their $25 deposit back. And then adjusting, if someone writes a bad check to the city, we currently charge $10, and the state law allows us to charge more, so we're just reflecting that. Again, want to discourage people from writing bad checks. Police fees, in terms of dollar amount, the fees are generally very small. Most of them are for garage sales and bicycle licenses. We did also review them for limitations in the state's penal code and in the city ordinance, but otherwise there's some minor adjustments for inflation. But again, those fees are comparatively small to the ones we saw in the other departments. City clerk fees, photocopies is an item that's got a lot of discussion in prior meetings. Current fee schedule says you get your first 20 pages free, 10 cents a page after that. Unfortunately, we did have a few people who would come in and want a large document and come in 20 pages every day and want to get a free document that way. It's just, from a staff perspective, not very efficient. We were proposing to do away with the first 20 pages free, and as a compromise, propose having photocopies at 5 cents per page, which is the cost of the machine, the paper, the staples, that kind of thing. It's no staff time. Any videotapes or DVDs, whether it's city council meetings, the police department also has some requests for items to be photocopied in those formats. We'd make the fee consistent citywide, $5, and the city would provide the either disc or tape. My understanding with DVDs, sometimes it has to be a certain type of disc to be compatible, so that's one of the reasons for wanting to provide the disc in that case. And we are proposing a rental fee for the council chambers. This is something new. If someone wanted to use the chambers, often those events are televised. There's a cost for the technician, also usually staff time to help open and close. So we're proposing $100 per day, and that's consistent with the rental fee for the senior center, so just as a comparison. And so that's a very brief overview of what you've been provided tonight. It's a very lengthy list of fees, so we're happy to answer any questions. Again, we do have a few committee members here, and we have a public hearing, so we want to open that up. But what we're asking at the end is for you to consider the resolution, and then also to provide us with direction on those items that I discussed regarding possibly streamlining the development process. And again, we'll work with the Planning Commission, and once we get consensus at that level, then we'll come back to the council with some ordinance changes.